I know, I know. I had trouble fading it out. And mine is the last voice I want to hear after such a voice from heaven. But nevertheless, welcome to the Armenian News Network, Groong. I'm Bedrosyan. In this Conversations on Groong episode, we'll be talking about music, art, and all the things that make us human beings and specifically Armenians. Our guest host today is Bedros Afeyan, who is a theoretical physicist who loves music and often quotes Nietzsche, who said, "Without music, life would be a mistake." And our guest today is Isabel Bayrakdarian, who is a mother, singer, teacher, poet, artist, storyteller, collaborator, believer, and not your average prima donna. This episode was recorded on Sunday, January 23rd, 2022. Take it away, Bedros.
Internationally acclaimed soprano, Lebanese-born Canadian, Armenian, American Isabel Bayrakdarian has released an album that draws on 5 generations of her family, from her great-grandparents to her own children. Well, I was a child once, where she was a child 15 years later, namely Beirut, Lebanon. And we both sang as acolytes in the Armenian Apostolic Church. We sang the same mass, the same ancient hymns, wearing the same robes and sliding around in the same hand-me-down slippers. Then we both left Lebanon and settled in Canada, Montreal for me, Toronto for her, finished high school and studied engineering in college, many years apart, mind you, and now we're both living in sunny California. Somewhere in the middle of all that, of course, she became a famous opera singer, and I did not. But we are both still very much Armenian, passionately devoted to music, so I thought, what a wonderful opportunity to talk and explore what makes her tick, how she came to choose music and singing over biochemical engineering, how she views those decisions now, what are her favorite genres of classical music, how she prepares, how she maintains her voice, how she does the musical scholarship to unearth and dust off over 100-year-old village songs, intonations, accents, traditional renditions, resurrecting Agn, Ani, Bitlis, Dikranager, Bardizak, Bursa, Van, or Gesaria, among many other ashes of the Armenian genocide, as well as parenthood, being a professor at UCSB, and in her spare time, a diva, a superstar, and an award-winning international recording artist. Hello and welcome, Isabel. I'm delighted to be in your company.
Thank you so much, Bedros, for that beautiful introduction. I'm extremely humbled, but there's still more to who I am than what's listed. You forgot a cook and a chef. I love cooking as well. And that's also part of tradition, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, Isabel, we have met on a number of occasions in the past. I first learned about you from my mother, who was excited to hear that you were from Zahle when you won your first international competition, and CBC was all over it. Your album, Joyous Light, made an indelible impression on me, and that reverberated in Atomagayan's film Ararat, which I reviewed for Groong, which I remember, if I remember correctly, was 20 years ago now. I also remember the album and movie The Journey Home, Precious. So let me start with some questions for our audience are going to want to hear. How did that journey back to Armenian music happen? How did you manage learning classical music and training your operatic voice while attending the prestigious University of Toronto, studying engineering of all subjects?
As in everything in my life, I listen to my inner voice. It has often defied logic, but I feel kind of like a fire in me. And I see a vision that people around me don't see. Thankfully, I've grown up in a very supportive family, and they've never put me down and said, "Oh, no, that's not possible." I've grown up with the encouragement that you can be anything you put your mind to, regardless of gender, thankfully, though I come from a very patriarchal society, of course, and that has not been the case to me. Mind you, part of it has to do with the fact that I came to Canada when I was young. I was 14 years old. So the dogma of you can't do this, you can do that, hadn't really been solidified in me. So I was very much a free bird. And with that free bird mentality comes curiosity and never limiting yourself to one certain thing. By the way, that still is my personality until today, actually, the free bird and how important freedom of spirit is. So looking at what I was good at, I was good at a lot of things, if I may say so humbly. You know, I really was, because I was very good in athletics. You know, when I was 12, I won the first prize in Levam in bicycle, in cycling. I was the champion in Lebanon for cycling. I was always good in maths and sciences, always had, just took that for granted, actually. And singing, I've been singing in church, gosh, from conception, honestly, until now. So what to do in university, how to choose my degree in university was number one, it was a no-brainer because I had a full scholarship to University of Toronto. And so that, and in engineering, the women are encouraged to apply, of course, in the field of STEM. And singing was never really an option for a career. And that's, I find the performing arts usually is not something on the forefront of thinking of immigrants, right? When you have gone through the experience of leaving everything behind, moving to a new country, new language, stability is something that you instinctively seek. And you see the family struggling to establish themselves. So art sometimes is considered, unfortunately, it's considered a luxury or trivial, whereas something as stable, quote unquote, stable as an engineering or medicine is more desirable. So I'm sure that went into my thinking when I was thinking of applying for engineering. I'm also a Taurus. I happen to really like to have my feet on the ground and just that owning the space I'm in. So engineering was easy. But what kind of engineering I chose was, it should be a foretelling of who my soul is. I didn't choose mechanical engineering. I did not choose electrical engineering or chemical engineering. I thought, how can I spend the rest of my life with objects and materials? I need to be with people. And I need to, most of all, more importantly, I need to help people. And biomedical engineering really appealed to me. Actually, the second below that was aerospace, because that was so new and I really wanted, but that space. But biomedical engineering really, really resonated with me. I have two brothers who are doctors. So, and I come, actually, traditionally, I come again from a family of midwives, very well-known midwives back in Gurtyol and Iskenderun. So that has always been in me, the caring, the nurturing, the healing, most of all the healing. So that appealed to me immediately. It was part of engineering science, even more difficult than other engineering degrees. But something interesting happened. First year of engineering, I was not happy for the first time in my life. I said, why? I said, it's because I'm only concentrating on my studies and there's no music in my life anymore. Because I wasn't singing in choirs, the course load was intense. And immediately, the second semester, I was at the Royal Conservatory of Music saying, I need to sign up for voice lessons. And literally, I went down the list of the teachers who were accepting students. I had no clue about the whole system, who's a good teacher, who's not, and went with a person that resonated with me, that just, I stopped on that name. I had no idea if it was a male or female from the name, actually, you know what I mean? But just, I stopped there. And she was my first teacher up until I switched to another teacher in New York. That's it. I've just had two teachers in my life. So again, being led by this inner voice that said, you must do this. And then it wasn't an immediate overnight thing of, I need to change the course of my life. I will say my teacher at that time, she said to me, Isabel, you make sure you finish your engineering degree. She didn't say, quit it. You have a great talent, pursue it. I mean, her father was also an engineer. Her brothers were engineers. So she knew how fickle this business is, the arts, and how more often than not, you are at the mercy of somebody else's opinion. And if you're not coming from a strong, secure place, you can easily be shredded by the negativity, by like you're putting your worth in somebody else's hands and their opinions. There's not even it's not like you can't even prove that you did it right. It's not like a yes or no answer. It's very subjective. So it can truly cause emotional harm.
It can destroy you.
Well, you're saying it right because I have to be more, diplomatic because this is what I do, right? But and that was one of the best comments because it kept me grounded. And you know what? I won the Metropolitan Opera competition in my senior year of engineering. Senior year, I was preparing my thesis, and I can go on and on. The whole podcast could be about that experience, how surreal it was being in New York City in my hotel right in front of the Metropolitan Opera. And instead of worrying about my notes or my nails or what I'm gonna wear or I was doing my final, my exams, which my professors were faxing to me at the time. We had no internet, right? They were faxing it to the hotel front desk so that I could finish it and submit it. It was surreal. However, going back, would I do this all over again? Absolutely. Because having that degree gave me a sense of self-worth that I'm not only one thing. I'm more than this beautiful gift that God has given me. I have many other talents. And the one thing that it helped me is like, there was no desperation. I had fire in me, but I wasn't desperate for it, which meant that I've always approached this with joy. What gives me joy? That's what I'm gonna do. Nobody is ever gonna force me to sing something I don't feel comfortable singing. So that has been such a savior for me in this 25 years of career that I've had so far. 25 years, a quarter of a century I've done this, and how I've kept my voice fresh, how I've kept my perspective healthy, how I still gain joy every single time I step on stage, and I forget that I'm paid at the end of it. Truly, the expectation of it is gone because to me, the reward is already singing on stage. So that, not being desperate for it, but still loving it with passion, has kept me on a very sane ground. That, and the fact that my faith and my family have kept me grounded. So often you take your success again as your self-worth, but then to be honest, to look at the mirror honestly, you also have to take your failures in it too. And often I find in performance, that's it. You just need to do it with joy, without any expectation, as in everything in life, right? You've got to do it without any.
Let's slow this down, and let me put on my stage director's hat and tell you what are some of the scenes we're missing to make this work. So I love what I'm hearing, but let me tell you what I need to hear. Something about workload separation when you were doing all this beautiful, crazy engineering and singing. How hard was it? Which one was pulling you? Was it 50-50 effort, 20-80 effort? What kind of effort was that? Just give us some statistical information so people can imagine, because nobody else has done any of that. So,
music was effortless. To this day, it's effortless.
You learn. You have photographic memory. You learn music immediately.
No, I learn music very fast. I retain that information very fast. I have a very, very methodical way of learning it. It's first visual, breaking it down to small parts, and then learning it. And it just the switch from brain to heart is so fast for me.
All right,
You
let
see,
me
often,
ask tougher questions then. Since you want to go, okay, we're going to go much tougher than this then. Okay, here's a tougher question. How much does it depend on how much you like the piece of music? That is to say, do you find that you learn a piece of music you like faster than a piece of, let's say, Schoenberg 12-tone something? Or is it just technical so that it doesn't matter how it assembles, you still have the tricks to disassemble it, whether it's Mozart or Schoenberg, for instance?
number one, you've got to know the size of your shoe. It's a saying in Armenian, right?
Yes.
You may love the Queen of the Night, but you should not sing Queen of the Night, even though your label is soprano. So you should know who you are first when choosing repertoire.
Were your teachers helpful there, or is just your own assessment?
Trial and error. Okay. And thankfully, I'm a fast learner. And I don't let my ego get ahead of me when choosing repertoire. It's very important.
So you're conservative.
I am realist. So, and I'm very proud of who I am, meaning what others may consider, oh, if you don't sing Verdi and Puccini, it's nothing.
Right.
That is your opinion. Can you do a Mozartian phrase? Can you do this Handel phrase? Yeah. And if you do, brava to you. However, I've been given this. This is my fingerprint. No one else has this fingerprint. I embrace me. I embrace everything about me because I'm unique. So the sooner you learn this, the better, because it will make a difference on the repertoire you choose. Now, everybody's miserable singing something they don't like. There's no such thing. So the trick is choose something you like, and everything else is smooth after that. The learning, the internalizing, the characterization. Because if you love something, then you can find whatever situation it is. The way I approach characterization is find at least one single thing in the character you're singing that mirrors you, that mirrors your personality. If that's one single connection, makes you authentic on stage.
That's exactly what actors have to do as well. It's exactly the same thing. Yeah, I mean, besides, for instance, Charles Aznavour believed that the key to singing is acting, and that the difference, he wanted to be an actor. And he sang because that's what he was able to do. And so even when he was teaching Liza Minnelli, what he taught her, who was already an established singer, is how to act when on stage. And she says that changed her life. So you're saying you do the same thing instinctually. It's the right instincts to have.
Yes, because if something is authentic, both from its beginning, from its basis, if the repertoire is authentic to you, it resonates with you, then you just let it in and it resonates truly. Your own light, your own being, it amplifies with that resonance. It just amplifies. It's out there. And you don't have to try. You don't have to try. Because honestly, the audience, regardless of their background and expertise, they sniff fake like that. They sniff it. They know it. Kids do it. Children are known, to zone out if something feels fake to them, and are very much engaged if it's alive. So that's what I would say.
So on this subject, there's a million subjects we can go into here, but on this subject of choice, I have a couple questions. For instance, in my case, I didn't like Bartók's string quartets, and a good musician friend of mine in grad school said, listen to them carefully, you're going to change your mind. And I did. So I realized that by listening to them, I could actually learn to like something, which at first sight I didn't like. Have you had such experiences, and do you relish that? And what are your thoughts on that?
So involving your mind, if your heart isn't engaged, sure. Yes. I mean, not everything has to come straight to the heart for you to feel the punch. Sometimes there's a lot of satisfaction from mental stimulation. This is what I do now as well, like combining both the scholarly work as a teacher, just with the performance. But there's a time and place for everything, and I'm sure you didn't have that. You wouldn't have that perspective as a teenager, but you had it in grad school because you had matured. So there's a certain amount of time and place for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't want to like Bach when I was young because I thought, listen, I'm already doing math. This thing sounds like math. So I like Tchaikovsky. But then I realized, oh my God, I love Bach. Forget about Tchaikovsky. So it's an evolution.
So I mean, you're comparing such different fruits. Oh my gosh, you need both at some point.
I agree. That's why Beethoven is my favorite composer. So he's got both. But let me ask you this. So of the musical growth that you've done, for instance, just to stick to that thing we were just talking about, I know that you've ventured into South American music magnificently, and then French music, because I know your albums magnificently, and you've enriched Armenian music in a way that is just non pareil, as we say in French. So on parallel, how do you pick? There's no end. Spanish music. I also have your Spanish album. How do you make these bouquets or forays into forests other than the ones you already grazed in? How does that adventure for you? You want to comment on that?
Sure. Yes. So as I mentioned before, I have a very curious mind. I love exploring, and I get bored easily, to be honest. I get bored very easily in life too. So, and the way I approach any kind of programmation, whether it's a recording or recitals or concerts, is what do I want to hear if I go to a concert? And the standard repertory has been recorded so many times. How many times do you need to hear the same song? How many versions do you need, especially nowadays, right? When we have access to all these recordings. So there's a couple of things I do. In concerts, for example, I try to bring a little bit of the well-known, to kind of lure in the new listener. But then as soon as I have them, the teacher in me comes, right? So I show them, here are the other possibilities that are similar to this, that have grown from this, so that the person who comes in is a very different person who leaves that concert hall. And now their palette is a bit more, and their vision is more expanded. That's what I like when I go to concerts. I don't want to hear the same old. And for my recordings, as I said, I've been in the business for 25 years, and I have 22 records right now. I've covered a lot of the standards, but I also have been leaning towards the undiscovered ones lately, kind of giving voice to those who, for a variety of reasons, composers or repertoire that has been in the shadows, or presenting the standards in a new way, whether having them arranged in a certain way so that the ear all of a sudden goes, oh, that's interesting. I know it, but I don't know it. And kind of, again, creating something new, whether it's adding something to the canon of what sopranos can sing, and not just with piano voice, but a string orchestra or a string quartet or harp, flute, or even duduk and harp, things like this, adding variety and something new, adding something new, and not just going by the standards. And for example, in the middle of the pandemic, actually, I released a CD of the recording of mostly unknown Italian Baroque arias by composers Vivaldi, Hasse, and Gluck. 3 of them had written operas about our Armenian king, Tigran. All 3 operas were called Il Tigrane. And I didn't know that our king, Tigran Meds, was married to somebody called Cleopatra. Did you know that?
No.
But not the Cleopatra that we know. So that his title is The Other Cleopatra.
Yes,
Queen
I
of
know
Armenia.
this album, and you look very good on that album. So Cleopatra fits you well. But
she's in my DNA. Look at that.
Exactly. You might have been her in a previous life.
Queen. The blood of Queen runs in my DNA, so I am
So you
entitled
went back
to
to
act
45
like one.
AD. Okay, excellent.
So things like this, where you unearth and you go into this scholarly work, which was something that I did not have time for before, because I was so actively singing most of the months of the year. But now that I have this dual role of teaching as a professor at the university, I have more time to do research. And then how wonderful, what a blessed position is it to be to research your projects, and then you get to perform them. I mean, this is heaven. Truly, it's just because you're picking something that fits you and then getting a chance to perform it. So this is the kind of work that has been the artistic, the creative work that has been the offshoot of my other creative work, which is performance on stage. So this is another creative / scholarly part that I've really enjoyed. Again, nothing is the same. There's something new added both to my life and to the life of the listeners, of the audience, and to the canon, most importantly, the canon of what's available for other singers to perform. And that's important to me, that it's not just mine, but it's shared. And and that's basically the whole reason how the Armenian, the CD, the project after that, the Armenian Songs for Children, that's about. Again, it was completely drawn. Okay, you see a common theme here: identity and authenticity have to meld together with who I am right now in this specific time and place in the whole space-time continuum.
Yeah. So let me ask you. Most of my time is going to be spent stopping you a little bit, but I'm a traffic cop of an impossible situation. But we're going to come to your album, obviously. But I wanted to ease into it with my second question. How would you characterize the differences between, or the overall musical harmony uniting Armenian music, whether it be traditional, village, heritage-based, or Komitas transcribed, versus the Western canon, which you sing professionally, from Italian operas to German lieder to South American tango gems? That's quite a span.
Yes. To answer your question, there's one word: authenticity. Anything you sing, anything, has to come from a place of authenticity. You have to mean it. You have to love it and mean it, whatever it is you're singing. If you're singing in French, you need to savor that French language, which I love, and make sure you do homage to the beauty of the language and the meaning. If you're singing an operatic aria, the grandeur of it, you need to embody it. It has to become you. You cannot pretend to be a Callas singing it. It has to be Isabel with her whole big past coming all together to create this scene. But it's always coming from a place of that's it, authenticity. I don't think I can elaborate more. That word is sufficient.
It works for me. So let's talk about the new album, Armenian Songs for Children. It is ethnomusicology par excellence. Bartok or Komitas or Ravel or Dvorak have nothing on you. You have unearthed Armenian music and expressive gems lost to the cruelties of time and conquerors past over a vast landmass, Western Armenia. The song of village folk resurrected in your hands and brought back to life like an injured bird on a trembling window on a cold winter morning, saved by you to find flight and gently soar away. Tell us about your song choices, the hard work of mastering and rendering them so beautifully, accompanied with just such a virtuoso harp and a virtuoso flute. Masterful simplicity and purity of sound, if I may be so bold as to say.
Bedros, you're a poet. I love the way you internalized and expressed my work of passion. I honestly do not remember one single shred of all the difficulties that went into creating this. And there were so many. I simply don't recall any challenge right now at this moment, because it was a passion. It was a project so close to my heart. But more importantly, again, at the beginning of the interview, I mentioned how I am led by my inner voice. There was a voice that couldn't be stopped. It was so loud that said, you must do it, you must do it, you must do it. There was only one other occasion that this big voice inside was harassing me, almost to the point of what's going on. That was actually a very important thing. I will mention this personal. A couple of months before my mother had her debilitating stroke, she was very healthy. This inner voice kept saying, go to mom, go to mom, go to mom. Okay, I'm living in Toronto, mom is in California. This voice said, go to mom, go to mom, go to mom. You know what? I did. I sold the house in Toronto, went to Fresno. That voice was so loud, I had to leave everything in Toronto and with my family move to Fresno to be with my mom.
And had you not done that, she would have
I would not have been able to
worse.
live with myself. I would not have been, because you always think your mom is gonna live forever, and
Right.
especially my mom was healthy. But so not to make too much of a dramatic parallels, but the voice that told me you must do it, you must do it, you must do it was as strong.
Okay, but let's pull into that. Look, listen. Everybody might think that whatever Komitas did can't be topped, or there's no point in doing anything else than what he did. That is not what you're doing. In other words, all the musical heavy lifting. By the way, I wanted to make a comment about that. Remember how you said that you had a perch by being at UCSB that allowed you to do scholarship and performance? Well, that's exactly what Komitas did. By being a Vartabet who went to the villages, an analogy that I think is pertinent here. He had the time to think about what these folks people are doing and then have it performed in Istanbul later on, or Etzbiadzin. And that allowed him to have that separation between his thought time, his own composition, and then performance, exactly like you. So there, you're in good company, just like Bartok, just like all these people.
Thank you. But I also think Komitas also felt that inner voice that told him, you must do it, you must do it, you must do it.
100%.
And that's one of the reasons I didn't, again, I didn't second guess it. Even though it was in the middle of the pandemic, I said, I must record this. I don't know why. Now, after I'd done it, and through the process of it, I actually found out why. Because this voice, that inner voice, was actually the collective voice of my ancestors.
Right.
Saying,
right.
give voice to us, give voice to us, give voice to us. We weren't allowed to sing this. We were chartavats. We were killed.
And the Armenian zeitgeist. It doesn't even have to be just your family. How about every Armenian you meet? How about every conversation you have, every drink you have, when you do chin-chin? What do you think is being said? What's being said is, who are we? How are we going to survive? What are our chances in the future? Your work makes that possible. So it's much more than your own family, believe it or not.
It's true that ancestors made, in the sense that the whole collective, absolutely. Right. And the collective is what I had in mind when I was putting together the repertoire. Okay, what to put in here? First of all, I didn't want this to be a grab-all bag of songs and children's songs. Absolutely not. It had to mean something, and it had to unite. This is very important. We all come from the same source, right? But yet we act divided as Armenians. However, I wanted to say that at some point, as children don't care about these divisions. As children, we sing, we have fun, we're playful, we don't talk politics. I read something interesting today. Hate is taught. It's taught. Kids don't know that. So I wanted to bring it down to that level. What did our ancestors sing when they were kids? And what did they hear when they were kids? And that kids, it's not just Armenia, the homeland, the diaspora, and also historical Armenia. And which is why I went to of course, I had to include Komitas's children's songs. We only hear his more dramatic and more shall I say, more the bigger repertoire, right? Leans on the lament and longing. But his children's songs are almost never performed. And then finding out, okay, what is the oeuvre of his students? And then coming down to Ganachian, of course, Ganachian I grew up with in Lebanon, hearing his songs and singing them. And Mihran Tumajan, who was a complete revelation to me. And so I definitely, the professor in me, enjoyed the fact that, I'm highlighting another teacher with his two of his 5 students, I should say. And then, to me, Ganachian represented diaspora. Komitas represented homeland, Armenia, and Tumajan represented the historical Armenia, the survivors of the historical Armenia. And hopefully, my hope was that by bringing this together in this theme, this all-inclusive representation would in turn wake in each of us a generational, almost like a DNA memory of who we were, who we are, and who the next generation will be. So on a practical side, I'll say, all this intellectual talk aside, I'm a mom to 2 kids, right? To 2 children, my daughter Leah and my son Ari. These kids have heard me sing lullabies to them every single night. And I make it as different as I can, all Armenian, of course, and prayers sprinkled in there too, But I am very much aware that most Armenian children do not have this when they go to sleep right now. Even as close as my brother, who I'm very close to, who lives in Fresno, his children aren't listening to this, aren't exposed to this while they're going to sleep. So even in my own family. So I thought this was extremely unfair, and for only 2 people in the world at night to get this. I mean, yes, I've sung it thousands of times, but it was actually this one as leaving a legacy to the new generation, because they won't know it if they don't hear it, right? As simple as that. If they hear it, then there's the link that has been restored with our past. That's it. They hear it. Of course, life is all about making choices. We all live with the results of our choices, right? They will have to make a choice. Do they continue singing this to their own children, or will they not? But at least I have now made it accessible for parents to learn it along with their children. I recorded this not in operatic keys. I really brought the key down to something that all of us can sing, because I didn't want this to be something that is unattainable. Like, it's too high, Mom, I can't sing this. None of that. I wanted it to be very practical. So that's the thing. I want my own family, grandchildren, my friends' children, and eventually the community's children to know about these songs. It's where they came from. It's very important. And music sometimes has a way of waking that curiosity, that identity, that pride, that you owning yourself. And then again, how did this all started? I will say this. When my son was very young, and he just knew about YouTube, right? And one day, as he was like, but because I'm saying this, and I think the minute I start singing, for example, track number 3 on this disc is something that I've sung 7,000 times, maybe literally 7,000, just to my children every night, going from one bedroom singing to one kid, going to the other bedroom singing to the other. 7 to 10,000. That's the range. It's a lot, and it has this Pavlovian effect right now. By the middle of it, they go like that, regardless where they are. They just immediately go to sleep. I love it. One day, just before he dozed off, he said, "Mom, why don't you put this on YouTube so that other kids can also go to sleep if they can't go to sleep?" This is from an 8-year-old boy.
Wow.
And this is how it all started. He's now 14, and I remind him about this, and he's kind of, shy in this teenager
yeah.
way.
Don't embarrass him.
But that's basically it. It's just knowing that our great-grandparents and our ancestors weren't these old figures or adult. They were kids once. They were like you, just like you. They sang these songs.
Let's rewind a little bit. So let me catch up on what I would have said to you had you allowed any room for breathing, but there wasn't, but that's fine. One is that Ganachian used to have a cappella choir in Beirut, just like Komitas had it in Istanbul in the turn of the century. And that a cappella choir he was blind already, but he did its rehearsals with a pianist accompanying them so that, they'd get the pitch right and so on. And that pianist was my mother. So when my mother was 9 years old, she played piano in Ganachian's choir practices when he was just beating up all these singers and getting the perfection that he was after.
Wow.
And so we grew up hearing those stories about Ganachian, and Ganachian's daughter's daughter was a classmate of my middle brother, Levon, whom you know, in our school. So we grew up with the Ganachian daughter's family who lived across the street from Central High School in Beirut, which is how small this world is. Okay, that's Ganachian's story. Her name is Shari. Now, I love this origin story. It's palpable. It's remarkable. Doesn't explain why you have a virtuoso harpist and virtuoso flautist on your. That's a little leap from what we've already covered. So can you say something about how you chose that ensemble, and just since when are you making yourself trying to sound Japanese?
What was the last one?
Since when are you desperately trying to sound Japanese in your composition of sound space? Because that harp and flout has such a humongously beautiful Japanese feel to it, as well as everything you've put into it. I thought if you'd stop to think about that, are you inspired by Japanese highly refined single reed instrument type of music, or is that just a happenstance?
So when I collected this repertoire, obviously I had a lot more than what ended up on this recording, a lot more. The Komitas songs, most of them were just melody, meaning Komitas never had the chance to harmonize it like he did his other songs like Groong or Tsitsernak. Most of them were just the melody or excerpts, or even actually not excerpts, but fragments. For example, the second one, the 5 lullaby fragments, which I'll talk about later, they literally were 2 or 3 bars of this that he'd collected as little snippets that he'd heard various mothers sing it. And the Tumajan also was only melody. And the Ganachian was the only one that had been harmonized, but it was not harmonized for my arrangement. So obviously what you would be hearing on the recording are arrangements. So when after curating the project, the next step was who was going to arrange them and to what instrumentation. Now, I already knew that the combination of flute and harp is present in almost all children music. If you pay close attention to what is considered light, lively, simple, innocent, those two instruments together cause an effect almost like a heavenly Elysian.
There's a lack of aggression. Yeah, there's no aggression in those instruments. There's no thumping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Though harp is plucking, it has more of a grand effect. And what's interesting is I had 2 very different composers do the arrangements. Artur Avanesov, who is one of the most brilliant composers we have today, and also one of the best pianists, actually. He is also a Komitas scholar. So it was a no-brainer. I asked him to do the arrangements, which he gladly did. So he did the Komitas children's songs. And now for the Ganachian, because it was something that was very close to me, actually, I did the arrangement with Ellie. That was my first foray into arrangement. So those 5 songs was something that I conceived with her. For the Mihran Tumajan, I went to composer John Hodian. And when we were having a conversation about how to go about this, he asked me if he was free to arrange it the way he wanted. And as somebody who believes in authenticity, I said, absolutely. I'm ready for you to arrange it the way you feel, you as a composer feel it should be done. And one of his first things to me was that I can't let this stay in the 19th century. It has to come to the 21st century. So the sensibilities that he brought to it are very exotic, aren't they? They're unlike any other Armenian arrangements you've heard. Some people say it has a lot of Asian.
Yes, I think I said that.
Zen-like.
Asceticism.
Yes, yes. And then for example, one of the songs, Salan Chachem, the Cradle song from Putanya, Bithynia, that has more of a Samson Dalila,
yes,
very exotic feel to it. So absolutely, I wanted it to be their own. You know, John is also the grandson of survivors of the genocide. So it's in his history and identity, this. So I had to let it come out the way he imagined it, the way he envisioned it. Of course, he involved me in the process, and I was always very supportive of the direction it went. Why not let it be different? And having a duduk in there, the duduk and the harp combination. Again, the duduk is associated ethnically to us, though many ethnicities, of course, claim it. However, it adds that historical element to these songs that are from historical Armenia, that Mihran Tumajan collected. So I did my research, of course, before approaching these 2 composers, and I knew that I would be getting different results. But so there's no such thing as a whole CD sounding the same. So now you have 3 different fruits, right? You have one by John Hodian, you have one by Artur Avaresov, and then we have one by me and Ellie.
So now, you got who did the Swallow song? There's 2 versions of the Swallow song. So which are those? So
the first Swallow song by Komitas was done by Artur. The second song by Ganachian was one I did. So with Ellie. So guess
which one I prefer?
Well, you are, with that story of Ganachian's connection to your family, I'm not surprised that the entire 5-song set is extremely close to you.
Yeah, I love Komitas. Listen, I painted Komitas 5 times, Komitas posters all over my house. There are no Ganachian posters here, so please. So no, that's not it.
It's interesting that there is, obviously, as I mentioned, I have a huge collection right now of this music, and some of it has been arranged, though it didn't end up on the recording. So there will definitely be a second volume to this.
Oh, yes,
with a much bigger Ganachian inclusion in it, which I may do a different arrangement this time. Maybe not so much with this, just to kind of, again, expand.
There's no limit to your creativity. I can see that. And it's wonderful. So did you have any trouble with any of the songs? These are the silly questions one has to ask. These kind of
I was the one who chose them. How could I have a problem with them?
No. But in other words, it turned out to be more to chew. You see what I'm saying? So you thought it's going to go one way, but it turned out to have, the sound didn't fit your conception, or it was just, you couldn't maximize. So for instance, it relates to another question. How do you decide you've done enough with a song? How do you decide it's done? It's the same, in other words, the same question, which is to say, as you improve, by repetition and by trial and error, how do you know you've reached that stage where you go, that's it, I can't improve on this anymore for now?
So the first question, to answer that, because there was 2 questions. The first question was, if there were any problems with the creation of it.
Right.
No, this was a no drama project. We had enough drama from COVID restrictions and having to record 6 feet apart and not having the usual trio in a tight little grouping that it was. I mean, we had that. We had many logistical problems. We never had any.
I'm talking about hiccups.
Yeah.
What kind of hiccups did you have to overcome?
Nothing artistic on this one.
Wow.
Nothing artistic, thankfully. I was very fortunate because I had.
You live a charmed life.
No, when something is blessed, you just go with the flow. You don't question it.
Yeah.
And I had a beautiful grant from UCSB actually to do that covered partial costs, but the others were all actually personal. This was all personal project. And when I say personal, it actually drew in artists of high caliber who are also drawn to this high standard and who kind of did it because they loved it, who wanted to be part of it.
Doesn't sound like anything else. Doesn't sound like anything else up and down the line, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. During the recordings, I'm the worst critic and the best critic of what I do because I'm very, very harsh with my standards. And if I don't like something, that's the thing also. I have such a big tool belt of how to fix things, which makes me a good actually technician, how I can actually teach my students very well, get over a lot of vocal problems. So the minute I hear something, all the possibilities come, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this next time, but I have to hear it. So that's why I'm very involved with the recording process, actually.
All right. How many takes were you doing, lady?
Not that, usually it is maybe 2 full takes and just patches of, let's say the flute didn't, or the harp did a wrong note. And it's those kind of things mostly because all the work has to happen beforehand. You need to rehearse it with the ensemble and you just bring it together. You cannot over rehearse something. All the spontaneity, like the magic goes, like that's very important. This magic needs to be there and in the moment. But when I listen to the playback, all ego goes down, all heart goes out, just mental. Listen to it, analyze it, and then again, walking back on stage. And then all of a sudden it becomes, everything goes to the heart, making sure it's coming from a right place. And then going through okay, you didn't hear this, which means make it the technical changes. And then hearing it like, aha, that's
how did
better.
You pick the order? That's the album preparation.
I know. That is playing things in so many different variations because listening to a recording, I mean, I don't know, nobody listens to real recordings anymore, but you download it from, you listen, you stream it. But the traditional way, the original way is people listen to it from beginning to end. So you need to create something like an undulating structure. It goes up with tempo, then it goes down, and it goes up again, it goes down. So to maintain the interest of the listener. So that's exactly what the thinking was, starting with something upbeat, going to, of course, first of all, keeping it separate, giving each composer their own space and time to shine. That was very important to me. So of course, the teacher comes first. So putting Komitas' work first, starting with upbeat children's songs, going to lullabies, and then kind of rising up again with the partridge and the wooden horse and then the swallow. And then how making sure that, for example, if songs are duplicated, because sometimes Komitas and Ganachian wrote, as you mentioned, Tsitsernak, the swallow, same words, different melodies, making sure that they're close enough, but not completely back to back, because we don't ever want to compare, right? You want to enjoy, but I made sure to sing them in the same key. That's actually just to make sure that if you go back to it and play it side by side, they're in the same key. You go, okay, da 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 da. One reached up too much, the other, it just and the same thing with Agn, the lullaby from Agn that Komitas collected, and which Mihran Tumajan also collected. But the Agn song is interesting because Mihran collected 3 lullabies from Agn. And what I did is I created a medley because I just didn't want to just take one and let the other 2 be forgotten again. until the next person revived them. I just wanted to bring as much as I could by medleys.
You mothered them.
Aww. Aww, thank you. That's a beautiful compliment. So, and then of course, again, this whole what
right,
do
so
I?
It's the equivalent of Chopin's minor key, major key changes between his various preludes.
You need to do it. You need to have a variety. You
But
need to have a
aren't most
variety.
Armenian songs, to be a little pessimistic, terribly minor key-ish, so that it's hard to find the major key ones? Or you managed, but I mean, was that a difficulty?
The difficulty was making sure that there were, yes, enough children happy songs, not lullabies, not putting them to sleep.
Right.
What did they actually sing? And some of them are hilarious.
Yes.
What the kids sing. I mean, they put curses on each other. You know, Madrapazin Achka Gurna. You know, it's
it's basically it's showing off. It's acting tough. Like little animals do it. They play submission games, even though they're little bears, right? So what are your musical ambitions, not yet reached summits, dreams, aspirations, besides teaching the next generation, which you're busy doing, of course?
Who plans like that? I don't plan my life like that. I go with the flow. I as long as I'm creative, as long as I'm continue to be a free spirit, there's a lot of things on the horizon.
You're a dreamer, Isabel, and as a dreamer, you're having dreams. I'm asking you to probe your dreams. Let's get going.
Oh, my dreams, artistic dreams, is to continue to produce repertoire, or to create and perform repertoire that deserves to be heard, that is currently undeserved or undiscovered. And very important for me right now is to be a mentor and a guide to the next generation of singers. It's so important for me. I see it, and I am at a beautiful place in my life where I can hop from stage to studio and bring in that relevant information to the singers. It's very important for me. And more giving opportunities to young singers. That's also something very important, whether that is through mentorship on stage, not just off stage, but like giving the young ones an opportunity. COVID has had a very, very catastrophic effect, especially on up and coming singers. You need momentum. You need years of momentum to build. It's like a plane, right? For it to take off, you need incredible amount of power at the beginning and energy for it to lift off. And COVID just boom, cut that liftoff for so many. And even today, performance venues are counting on established names to bring in people. Nobody wants to risk their lives, I guess, going to see. We're not back to just going out there freely and enjoying music and experimenting and listening to new things. So, and one thing that I want to do again is eventually, whether it's through having my own festival, my own concert series, or even my own record label, inviting the young generation, giving them a chance to record their music. Like nobody has this chance anymore. No one. It's so difficult to create music and put out their music.
So you're saying TikTok doesn't work for you?
It was suggested. I sighed because it's like, oh. No, it does not. Right? Not right now.
Even though it sounds like a Komitas children's songs name, TikTok, right there.
TikTok.
So, Isabel, can you lead us through a typical day for you, if such a thing can be described? say you're back home during the semester, UCSB is open, all the children are in school. What is your day like? And then when you're out on the road and away from home, how do you prepare, rehearse, choose your repertoire, expand it, do the groundwork before the flashy lights of the stage and your powerful voice captures the rest of the night in a blazing glory?
Oh, sounds so intimidating.
I try.
Oh. Thankfully, there's no typical day. And I thank God for that. There's no routine. But, everything that I do, I've asked for it, and therefore I'm grateful for it. And therefore I do it with passion. I love being a mom. I love being a mom. It actually that's a priority. I love the give and take. I love the teaching that I do. I love the love that I share with them, the journey of life with them. It is one of the huge blessings in my life. UCSB, I love teaching. I love teaching. I wouldn't have said this 15 years ago. I wouldn't have said it 10 years ago. So with teaching, you need to be, your reserves, your barrel needs to have been so full of experience, life, that it just overflows and you have to give in order to receive more. That's what I feel about teaching. You cannot go into teaching when you are still taking from life. When you are overflowing, you're supposed to be teaching. And that's what I feel. I have so much to give them. And I get rewarded with more because I am giving from this. Oh, it's overflowing. It's not even called giving. My gosh, that has been a beautiful, beautiful direction that I never consciously thought about it. I never really thought that I would be a tenured full professor at a university. Never worked towards it. I was in the moment and this opportunity came, which started just as a lecturer, actually. And it just quickly, obviously, progressed. But one of the many perks of being at UCSB is that I'm the director of the opera here. So I direct, for example, this year, I'm directing the Magic Flute. And it is a very new and interesting version where I've had it again commissioned for a chamber ensemble to accompany it. Instead of a full orchestra, it's 9 musicians, 9 students. I have singers singing double cast roles, meaning I only have 7 singers because we're a very small program. And I have acting, it's a puppet show. It's actually by the theater and dance department who are using puppets big and small to act the part. So it's kind of bringing together 3 art forms: instrumental music making, singing, and acting and theater, to bring the same story interpreted in 3 different ways. It's just creating no boundaries. So, and this is actually going to be going to New York City for a tour in association with New York City Opera, thanks to my friend Konstantin Orbelian. He invited this group to perform as part of their New York City Opera's outreach program. So, it's incredibly satisfying for me to have my creativity, my experience going to this, coaching singers in Mozartian singing, coaching the instrumentalists, putting a show together. And trust me, that's where engineering comes in, where you're super efficient with budget, with timing, with putting a show together. And another satisfaction is seeing my students excel and get into these wonderful graduate programs and win competitions. And that is a huge, it's like raising your kid and seeing them successful. Truly, I feel like that. And then the best part is sneaking in any moment I can get to learn my new music. But thankfully, we go back to the original conversation. I learn music so fast and it gets internalized in me so quickly. And truly, I'm saying this, I used to take it for granted. It's not until I started teaching, I said, oh, you've got to teach somebody to do this? Okay. You need to teach somebody to sing coloratura because it came naturally to me. You need to, all those things.
Break it down. Yeah, you got to break it down.
What an advantage I had.
So,
and then coming to life And any opportunity I get to be on stage, to come, and that's a completely different part of me, right? That's like my soul. My soul comes out and sings. So as a mom, my heart is singing. As a teacher, my mind is singing. But as a singer on stage, my soul just comes out and says, thank you. And it's like,
there's a bit of a poet in you too, I have to admit. Now, so Papagenia is a puppet?
Everyone in the show is a puppet. Everyone in the show is a puppet. The Queen of the Night is a puppet. The three ladies.
Music box, the magical music box thing is a puppet?
The magical that is going to be a Celeste playing an aside.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. What books have influenced you the most? What composers? You don't have to write these down. I'll ask them again. What composers, what singers, what musicians, what movie makers, what thinkers, philosophers, poets, novelists, and painters? I just thought I'd ask a little question like that. What books have influenced you the most?
Paulo Coelho, his books.
Okay, all of them?
The Warrior of Light.
Excellent. What composers are your favorites for now?
Mozart, always Mozart comes on top. Yes.
It's not a mistake. Well, it's Beethoven for me, but I allow that. What singers?
Cecilia Bartoli.
Oh, nice. What musicians? Could be pianist, could be whatever instrument you like listening to. What's your go-to instrument to listen to when you're alone? Is it a cello like it is for me, or guitar, classical guitar, or what?
I have such a curious mind. I shuffle on Amazon, and I go to whatever the classical guitar. How about that?
Yeah, okay. That's a very good choice. Yeah. The only instrument I play. What movie makers have influenced you the most?
Oh man, the Coen brothers.
Yeah, you were young. I should remember that.
Oh.
So I was. That's fine. What thinkers?
This one, I'm going to go with, even though he is a scientist as well, Einstein.
Good. Yeah, well, there's a few pictures of him around here as well, everywhere, and quotes and stuff. What philosophers?
Not Nietzsche, that's for sure.
Okay, I'm going to take that insult as in stride. He's not my favorite philosopher, but I recognize him as an extremely important philosopher. So who do you like?
Can it be like Aristotle? Can it be?
Yes, it can be Aristotle.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if you needed to be current.
No, you didn't respect that rule of the Coen brothers, so why start now? So,
it's current.
Exactly, that's current. I didn't ask it. You made it current.
Oh, okay.
For it.
Go ahead.
The ancienter, the better. So Aristotle, you like his poetics, I suppose, or any of his writings related to art. He tried to have a theory of art, by the way. How about poets?
Canadian. I'm going to go with Canadian. Atwood. I know she's a novelist, but also she has
yes. All right. Margaret
Atwood. Yes.
Yes. By the way, earlier when you were talking about being free, I had a desperate need to tell you, do you know Leonard Cohen's song, his most famous song, which is about all his life he spent his time to try to like a bird on a wire to be free. Do you know this song?
Of course, like a bird.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be free. Yeah. So that was
it's so important. That's this concept of freedom. I know I'm interjecting, but
no.
It's come back again and again. It's never free. Freedom is never free, but it's so essential to keeping your essence.
Freedom is elusive, and the fact that you pursue it is a charming quality you should never lose. How about novelists? You're going to go back to that fellow again? The South American?
I like him. You don't like him?
Fine. I'm not going to say anything. How about painters?
You.
What painters speak to you? Besides that, what speaks to you? Oh, very funny. What speaks to you?
You know, I will say this. When I was growing up in Lebanon, we had, middle of the war, we had huge books of Impressionists on our table. And we had no chance for internet, nothing. And I would pour through that book, that illustrated book. So yeah, the Impressionists.
So Monet, Manet, you know, one of my favorite jokes is Herb Caen told this. It's not my joke. Herb Caen told it in the Chronicle once. Two people are at Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and two American women are talking, and one of them says, Monet, Manet. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Okay. Now, I know you write poetry yourself. Can you read something of yours here on the air for your fans?
What I will read instead is something from a song. I did not write this, but I feel in Armenian, one of the lullabies in this recording speaks so much to me. I know the English translation. I'll read the English translation afterwards, but it was very difficult to translate that to English because the Armenian words are so succinct, and you would understand it if you said it. It's the following. It is the lullaby from Putanya called Orrim, Orrim. So, Orrim, 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 Ororots tanim. Suprishtagnern al bahabantanim janigas. Oror, 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 Oranter Voski, Oranter Oski Gamarter Arzat, Yavrugas. Oror, Oror, Oreres Orerut, Oreres Orerut, Acheres Acherut, Anushigas. So I cannot imagine a bigger blessing a mother can give upon a child, right? Saying, sleep, I lull you to sleep. I place you under the holy angel's protection, my beloved little child. Sleep, sleep, your cradle is golden, and its arch is made out of silver, my dear little child. Sleep, sleep, I wish you a long life. I will always watch over you, my sweet little child. Now, I did all the translations for this recording, all of them. It was my first time doing translations for CD booklet. And this one was so poignant to me because, come on, Oreres Orerut, Acheres Acherut. It's very simple. It means, may the days of my life always be with your days of your life. Acheres Acherut. My eyes, may they always be on your eyes, meaning you're always around, you're always visiting, you're always healthy, you're always alive.
Our eyes locked would have been a way to translate that.
Our eyes locked, but that's too romantic.
Write it down. No, it's not romantic. When a mother is saying it, it's not romantic. Our eyes always locked is not romantic. It's a wish. It's may our eyes be always locked. That is not romantic. It's a prayer.
But also, I will always watch over you is also beautiful.
But that's well, I agree, but it's more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a task. Our eyes be always locked is not a task.
It's a blessing.
It's a permanence to it. The subtlety is that if you say, may I do this, or I'm going to do this, that's an action, and then there's a failure. May our eyes always be locked has no failure mode. That's where the poetry of it is. But anyway, and the next one was Acheres, Gyankis, Gyankis. What was the next one?
No, there's no Gyankis, Gyankis.
Well, there's something. There's another.
It was Oreres Orerut.
Right. Now that's extremely poetic. So may my days exist only through your days. That's what that means.
It wouldn't have fit. To fit on the page.
I can't help you, lady. I can only do the best I can do. All right.
Here we
are. Anyway, so we can talk about translation if you like. I've translated Neruda poetry to Armenian, so which I think sound better in Armenian, and so we can talk about that if you like sometime offline. So, and you knew I was going to ask this. Can you also sing one of the bird songs from your wonderful and enchanting album of Armenian Songs for Children? My favorite, incidentally, among 28 of other masterpieces, is the Lament or a sorrowful song full of chagrin serenade. Sing one for us, Isabel.
Let's listen to it, as it will be a better thing.
Well, we're going to listen to it, but if they can hear your voice do this like that, they will hear the authenticity, they will hear the, or anything. Or how about Der Vormia? Do you want to sing Der Vormia with me? No?
So the thing about singers is that we are not like instrumentalists who press a button to sing. The singing requires warm-ups, vocalizes, and definitely no speaking before singing. And we've been talking so deliciously the last little while that the singing voice that usually comes out will not be the same. So it's better to hear it.
Yeah, but it'll be closer to their voice. They will be closer to your listeners' voices, and you lure them in.
Aha, good try, Bedros. Good try.
Yeah, I have no chance here. Okay, well, let me just say thank you, Isabel. The Armenian nation thanks you. You're a national treasure and a wonderful podcast interview, my first. All right, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Don't at me, folks. I didn't ask to be the one to turn down Isabel Bayrakdarian. It's an amazing album, and I haven't stopped listening to it since I got it. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this Conversations on Groong episode. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks to Bedros Afeyan for his time. I knew that we would both have a wonderful experience preparing and doing this episode because we're both big fans of Isabel's. Thank you for supporting us at Armenian News Network Groong. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. On behalf of everyone in this episode, we wish you a good week. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.